Well, hello Internet. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I saw the sunrise this morning. It was gorgeous. I'm having a great day. Anyways, this is the November 2020 shop update, and this is what we're talking about, among other things. So first, the step stool. So yeah, about 3 videos back, I did a beginner-oriented, limited tools type project of a little 4-board step stool, and yeah, I painted it black. Do you like it? This is pine. This one is cherry, and yes, obviously I like the cherry one better, but that wasn't really the point of the video. The point was to try to do a beginner-oriented project. Got a lot of nice comments. And actually I got some safety concerns about overhangs, and interesting, I don't go looking into the YouTube comments for them because they were all in the Instructable. I made an Instructable as well as posted it on Reddit, and it was in the Reddit comments and in the Instructables where I got some of the safety-oriented people who are like, oh, a step stool, you should never have an overhang, and you should never have the legs narrower because it can tip. And yeah, in a sense you're right, but in a sense you're not. Here, hang on. Grabbed my little square, and if you hold it up against the table, it's like, there looks like there's an overhang, but if you bring, actually, it's easier to see on the cherry because it's lighter colored. So yeah, there's an overhang here, but then the side flares back out because if you recall, the side was made from the same size board as the top, and then I just angled it in. So the base of the stool is just as wide as the base of the top. And yes, there is an overhang at the end, but it's like a 1/4 inch. So yeah, technically these comments were right. You have to be careful about overhangs and making sure that the base is not smaller than the top, but I don't really think it was an issue with this particular design. I've actually done it myself. I made a bench for painting once, just to, so I could stand up and paint the ceiling and stuff. And foolishly, I had like a 6-inch overhang at the end of the bench. I had the legs in for no reason whatsoever. It's just the way I built it. And then I get to the end of the bench once, and the whole bench popped up into the air, and I very quickly took it apart and moved the legs right to the end. Live and learn. So I think, yeah, that was about it. I did get one other comment on the video, which actually had nothing to do with the step stool. Let me bring the camera around again. I had one person who was asking me about my dust shroud on the back of my table saw. This is a contractor style table saw, which means normally it's open. And I built these pieces of plywood to just close it in a bit. This is just a piece of plywood. I've excavated a bit here to make it fit in front of the motor, and at the top there's a rabbet. It's strictly in by friction because this is kind of pushed against the motor mount here. There we go. And that just slides in there. And then one piece on the other side, this one, has a little rare earth magnet top and bottom to hook onto the edge of the frame. And again, there's a rabbet at the top to fit in. And that just helps close up the back of the saw. And yeah, obviously, I have to remember to take these out if I want to tilt the saw, because on a contractor saw, the entire motor swings out the back here when you're tilting it. So coincidentally, I'm actually working on a few dust collection fine-tuning upgrades in my shop, and that's going to be in an upcoming video, and I think I'll probably talk about the table saw a bit in that video. So after that was the repair video where I fixed the notch in this drawer, and yeah, it is still visible if you come up and look at it. It's going to take some years for that color to blend. It's one of these 6-foot type fixes, you walk into the room from 6 feet away. From 6 feet away, you can't really see it unless you're really looking for it. But more importantly, because there's no notch, your eye is really good at picking out things that shouldn't be there. So normally you walk into the room and you'll see this bank of drawers and it's like, well, there's a notch missing. But now you'll walk into the room and there's a bank of drawers and they're all the same. So your eye just slides on past. So I'm still really happy with it. I had a couple of interesting comments. One person pointed out, quite honestly, you go to a flea market and look for old broken junk, and that's a great source for old wood. That's a great tip. Thank you. Somebody said, hey, why don't you could, since you're dismounting the front of the drawer, you could have like taken it from the back of the drawer. And while that's true, I could have, this whole back of the drawer is not really visible. It is only 3/4 of an inch thick, so I think it would have been quite tricky to sort of excavate a chunk of wood from the back of the drawer. But that is, without a doubt, the absolute most stealthy way that you could have done it. Taking something from the back of that tray, I think was just fine. It worked out, and we're happy with that repair. So, on to the picture. This is my most recent video. Really, really happy with how the frame turned out. Had one very correct comment where somebody was like, well, how did you put it all together? And they're true. I totally skipped that because, well, the video was, I was editing the video as I was going along. I knew I was going to pass 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, you're passing 15 minutes and it's just a framing video. So I was cutting things out. So first of all, the canvas is not in at all. It's friction fit. It's just friction fit. It just fits in against the rabbet and it's tucked in there, and the wire here in the back is helping to hold it in place. Next was how the inner frame's attached to the outer frame. Let me bring the camera in for that. So for the inner frame, I simply drilled in from the side, and I put a screw here, and then on the other side also, and also at the bottom, I got the 3 screws. It's not going anywhere, and they're in the side, which is where the canvas is, so it's completely hidden. And for hanging it, we've got just a screw and a wire. And okay. I'm on page 2. Oh yeah, actually, still on the picture side of things. I had a comment from a fellow who's like, hey, I've been to Tobermory, Scotland, and yeah, I live in Ontario, Canada. I've mentioned that before, and it's full of place names that have been reused. I live in London. Not London, England, London, Ontario. There's a Whitby, there's a Peterborough. I hadn't known that Tobermory was a reused name, but there's all kinds of reused names. So, and it just made me think about that for a minute. And I just was doing a quick going through my background, and it's like, I've been to Manchester in the UK, and I've also been to Manchester in New Hampshire. I've been to Ottawa in Ontario. I've been to Ottawa County in Michigan. When I was looking that up, Manchester, there are like 30 Manchesters in the United States. Wow, how many have you been to? What's the reused place name that you visited the most? I'm going to be thinking about that now. So what else is new in the shop? As I already mentioned, my next video is going to deal with some dust collection, fine tuning. And in my previous video, I mentioned the lack of lumber, and I already dealt with that this morning. Today I headed out of town into a glorious sunrise. There was mist rolling on the fields that was evaporating. I'll throw some pictures in here. It was absolutely beautiful. I go to this place called Springwater Mill, which is about a 45-minute drive southeast of London. I've had people ask me about lumber. If you can get far out of town, generally it's more difficult, but I think you're generally going to get better prices, and it's fun to get out of town. So cherry, maple up there. I picked up some unnecessary walnut too, and just for fun, 1 board of Osage orange. Osage orange has this sort of a greenish yellow tone to it. It's kind of interesting. I think it goes dark over time, but I mean, this piece I planed probably 6 months ago, and it still has sort of that dark, it's almost, I mean, I wouldn't call it orange, but it's certainly on the orange end of a greenish yellow color. Fun accent wood. Okay, that's the end of my list. That's the end of this shop update. Have a great November, and we'll see you on the next video.